Hello YouTubers. Today's video is about doing the same process that I did on my 71 442 to the 68 Cutlass, which is remove the gauges, replace and or fix the idiot lights that aren't working there, and also look at the tick-tock tack, and then put it back together. This is significantly harder to do on the 68 Cutlass than it is on the 70 through 72 models. The 68s and 69 have a different dash, and the gauges come out much differently than they do in the 70 through 72s. So you'll see quite a bit of difference between the two if you've watched my first video. So anyways, let's get into it and show you how it goes. Now what I want to talk about here is what it takes to get these gauges out. As you can tell, 68 Cutlass, 68s and 69 have a different dashboard than the 70 through 72s, and things come apart a lot differently. So on this one, you may be able to tell down in here, hopefully if I can get in here, that down here, follow me down there, there is at the 4 o'clock and the 8 o'clock positions, there are two pieces that are jettisoned out there, and they have a little cutout on them. So I can try to demonstrate where it is. If I come down here, I'm talking about this piece right down there. There's a little cutout on it and a little cutout on the other side, and that's where the screws go that hold the gauges in. And both the one in the middle here and the one on the left hand side are held in the same way. Now the tack, you'll see down here that there's metal brackets, and you can see the holes in there that hold the tack in. You can also see the ductwork back there. There's the orange wire that feeds power to the tack. Everything else is sitting in there. There's the speedometer cable sitting back there. It is tight to work. There is little to no access. As you might be able to tell in here, you can see that big rusty metal thing. That's right in the way. Right underneath that is where the steering column goes. And so the way to do this is to completely remove the steering column. I know it's not a lot of fun to do that, but believe me, it'll help you in the long run if you do that. All the gauges come out from the inside. They pull out towards you once you get them disconnected. You remove those screws that I was showing you, and then the gauges will pull out. There's one more trick that you're going to have to learn, and that is how to get these gauges out, because they are not going to want to come out because the size of this vinyl is going to try to hold it in there. So what I recommend is taking like a butter knife here and going around and sticking this in between the gauge and the thing to help the part of the instrument come out and clear this area. So you're just going to come around here and just kind of like help it unstick as you pull the gauge out. It'll take a little bit of work. As I recall, I unscrewed that speedometer cable from the back there, so I didn't try to pull out the gauge with the speedometer cable on there. There's not enough room. You're going to have to disconnect that from back there, and then once you pull it out, you can see the wiring harness. You'll be able to grab onto the wiring harness and pull it off. And then the reverse, when we go back in, I'll go over with you what I think it's going to take to get these gauges back in. And I think it's going to be a matter of putting on the screws onto the gauge, tightening the screws all the way in just loosely, and then once it's pushed in there, unscrewing them so that they can recatch on those plastic, well, they're not plastic, they're metal clips in there. So yeah, the other thing that you're going to have to do, I'm recommend, is you're going to notice here, and I can't see my screen, but I am sitting on the floor. You're going to have to take your seats out. On mine, I was taking a console out. I'd taken the console out for the new carpeting that I put in here. So that's something that you're going to have to do too. You can see the console laying over here. You can see the steering column laying right here. Here's one of the gauges. Both gauges are laying back here. So it's a little bit cluttered right now. You're really gonna have to be good with your hands to get in here and get these things loose. You're gonna use small 1/4 inch, that's 5/16, but a very small 1/4 inch drive like this to get in there to loosen those bolts. So that's what it's going to take to get that out of here. Now the other thing I'm going to do is I'm taking out the radio, putting in a new stereo, and also, if you can get in here and see, there is the old speaker. I'm going to pull that speaker out and put in a new double gauge speaker, or double-sided speaker, dual channel, whatever. Now I just noticed that, hold on, that I had this fuse fall on the ground. So I'm pretty sure I know where that goes. That is on the tachometer. There's a special kind of harness that you're going to take apart for the tachometer, and I'll try to show you that here in a little bit, but there must have been a fuse that I wasn't aware of that fell out of there. So that is what I'm sure that goes to. And that wiring harness, you can't see it right now in here. I'd have to dig around and find it for the tack. The tack doesn't have like a harness like the other two does. It has individual wires, and so I just got to get to that and show you. And then we'll see what it takes to get this radio out. It's already loose, but there's some kind of strap in here under, somewhere around over here, that the glove box that is holding the radio on, and it won't let it drop out. So I've got to find that yet, and then we'll go over it. I would like to film in there, but I can barely even get, I got to get my head down in this area here, and there's barely enough room for my head to even fit in there so I can see what the hell's going on. So yeah, I don't know if I'll be able to show you, too much of it, but I can attempt to. So let's see. Okay, I don't know how well this is going to come out. Here's that thing. Here's the connector for the tack, and the tack has its own wire that goes in there, and inside there, yep, is where that fuse goes. So that's where the fuse goes. And when you're looking up here, I can't really see what you're seeing, but yeah, there's not a lot of room, and everything with this steering is in the way. So and this is what you're going to be up against. There's not a lot of room, there's not a lot to see. You can maybe see the radio over there that's got to come out. So we're going to work on that, and yeah, get ready for a lot of crap to fall in your eyes when you're under here, because the insulation just keeps dropping down in my face. So not a lot of fun. You better have a good light, otherwise you'll never get anywhere. So get yourself a good light, that 1/4 inch wrench that I showed you, and then you can get these apart, except for the tack, which I think may be like a 3/8 or something like that screws. But you'll see that if yours is equipped with that. Okay, so I just wanted to go over, what you should be doing. So you're going to remove the seats first, then you're going to remove the steering column and the console if you have one, and then you can attempt to take out these gauges. They will not be fun. You're going to have crap falling in your face, but it just takes a little persistence. It's going to take a little bit of time. You don't want to break things or wreck things while you're in there. So just take your time. Put about 20 minutes to a half hour per gauge. I mean, it just goes that slow. So if you set your expectation that it's going to take a while, and you're going to have to take some breaks, because my garage is hot, so it gets hot, it gets uncomfortable under there, and you're on your back. One other note, as you might be able to see here, I put down a piece of carpet over top of where the seat goes. The reason is there's these studs that hold the seat in. And I made the mistake of laying on top of them studs without this carpet here, and I couldn't walk the next day because that stud landed right in my ass and made it almost impossible to walk. So yeah, that took me a day to recover from that. So I put this carpet in here, and it is a necessity because those little studs, you'll feel a pain like you're sitting on something, and you're just like, keep on working and keep on working. Well, I must have like sat on a nerve or something, because yeah, I was in bad shape the next day. So word to the wise, get set up properly, expect to take this level of it apart to do it. So you're going to want to do everything that you can while you've got this apart like this. That's why I'm doing the radio, that's why I did the carpet, that's why I'm doing the seats, because might as well get all this done at one time. And because you don't want to have to rip out these seats and the steering column for every little thing. You just want to do this once and get it done. Well, I just got done cleaning all the gauges, so all the different materials or different surfaces or different pieces of this thing rather have been cleaned off and dried off, and now they're ready to go back together. So I also oiled the speedometer, just a little bit of mineral oil, 3-in-1 oil on these pieces in here where I can reach, and then I make sure that the camera or the speedometer is facing down, because I don't want any of that oil finding its way to these numbers. So that's done, and the extra oil has now drained out, so it's good to put it back together now. So I'm going to do that, and then put the new lights in. I got the LED lights over here. Now remember, you can't mix and match these LED lights, so whatever circuit, it either has to be all LED or all incandescent. So that means the turn signals cannot be LED, because the rest of the system that runs with the turn signals is not. So I won't be converting it, but everything else, mainly just the lights that light up the gauge pack itself, is what I'm converting to LED. Gives it a nice soft blue hint, and looks nice in the car. So I'm going to get set up to do that. All right. First piece will be this going back in. Oh, no, it won't. The first piece will be the headlight indicator. All right, that's just a cardboard tube with a red. On this year, it uses red, so that is a red background. Drop that in there. One is get this base settled down. I don't like that moving around on me. Okay, bent those tabs back. Get this sorted. All right, perfect. So now those fit in there. All right. Okay. Alright, looks like it clicked in everywhere around, so then I just got to bend over those tabs a little bit. Ah, just like I was afraid of, but fortunately some of it is falling out the backside. Oh well. See if I can blow some of that dust out, but yeah, let's, for right now, let's try it. Alright, so I was able to get it out of there with just a blow, and I just basically hit it just a little bit from this far away with some air, and it knocked it out of there. So that's how you'll do that. Okay, there you go. Alright, now I need 3 of these little guys. 1, 2, 3. Are those all the same? They look all the same, basically. Now I selected the ones that had a little bit of a built-in washer so that I get a good grounding, because this is how this unit grounds. There are 4 posts and 5 lights, so none of these posts look like grounds. These 2 lights are sharing. 2 of the lights are, I guess, yeah, I guess these 2 lights at the top, that should be the top of the gauge. No, it's the bottom. Are sharing. One of these are sharing. Maybe one at the top, one at the bottom. Okay. All right. Now to figure out the lights. The 2 at the bottom are definitely the turn signals, so they're not getting halogens. They're going to stay incandescent. Alright, the one in the middle is the high beam. Now that can go either way. That can stay incandescent, or it can go and these 2 light up the light. So I'm going to try to switch them out. All right. All right, now we get ready to test. Okay, well, all of the gauges are now hooked up. I want to kind of show you, oops, got a little too much light in here. Let me shut the door there. Okay, so where I'm at is directly under where the steering column is. If you remove the steering column, you get this little access hole right here. And if you look right up there, you will see the gauge, and you will see the one screw that you can't get to from trying to come like where under the heater controls are right here. So unless you remove those heater controls that are in here, there's not really a way to get your arm in there. So if you do take out the steering column, you'll be able to get to that screw right up there, which holds on one of the two screws that holds on the gauges. And if you come back up here where I was working earlier, you will be able to hopefully get in here. You can get your arm in here, and you can undo the bolts that hold these. There's 2 bolts per gauge. You'll be able to get them out. So I wanted to, try to show you as much as possible what you're going to be in for when you try to get these gauges out. Now, like I said, I did bring one through here as like a test, but it's better to go through the way, right out from the front of the dash. So let me show you what it looks like. So here's where I'm at. I've got both of the gauges in here now. Now the Tic-Tac is still out. It's off to a guy right now to see if he can fix. Otherwise, I'll be doing something different. But I have a different video on that. It's a tale, quite a story. So anyways, that's how the gauges have gone. I tested the gauges prior to me finalizing the tightening of those, and I can tell you that they're working. The lights, the background lights are now LEDs, and everything else is working. So there was the hot light that wasn't coming on. I still got to debug that. If I ground out the sensor up front, it comes on. I just need to check to see if that light's supposed to come on when you're trying to start up. I think it does, but for whatever reason, it's not right now. So that's one more thing to debug. I did want to cover real quick the tools that you're going to need to be able to do this job. One of them is a 1/4-inch drive with a 1/4-inch socket on there, and that's going to be helpful to get that bolt that I just showed, the access hole. I come in from the side on it. I also have a 1/4-inch drive on one of these little thumb things that's very handy to get up here to get the bolts for the 2 gauges back here on the sides. So yeah, I think between those 2 right there, you should be pretty good. One other one that I would kind of throw in here is, this is the wrong one, but here's the right one, is a 1/4-inch drive for getting into any place you may have things. So with these 3 tools, you should be able to get out everything that you need to get to the gauges, except for the the Tic-Tac that takes a different size nut. But outside of that, the 1/4-inch is what you need for the 2 other gauges. So that's it for now. All right, well, I've got all 3 gauges in there now, and well, let's see here. Maybe you can see this, maybe too much light. The clock is working. It's been working about 15 minutes now, so that's good. It's being accurate. The tack is working. All the gauges are in here. Let me just show you the working tack now. So hopefully you can see. Let me turn on the lights. So hopefully you can see there. Try to block as much outside light as I can. The gauges are lit up. The tack is working. As you can see, all the gauges are working. This is the LED light up of the gauges. I'll take you under the car and try to show you the best I can the wiring. And the radio's in here, it works too. So I've got custom auto sound in here.
At an Egyptian Coptic church in Giza during morning mass.
That's the
41 worshipers, including 18 children.
Of the speaker that's up there. It's the only speaker in here right now. So I'll show you that too. Let me kill the engine. Let me shut off the lights. And let's take a look under here. Well, it's hard to see under here under good conditions, but right there is the speaker. Hopefully you can see it up there. That's the speaker that I got in. The radio is, you know, it's pretty much like any radio. Not too bad on the wiring in there. Boy, the tack. I'll try to show you as much as I can. Alright. The tack is it's just difficult to see up there. Anywhere you get around here, there it is, I guess. Sort of, you can see it back in there. Getting those two little clips on there back onto the tack to hold it in there is a little bit of a challenge. Anticipate about a good 15 minutes to do that. Anything else up here? Oh, I think I was able to show you before a little bit these gauges, you know, from the other side here. Boy, everything is a battle. Let's see. All right, maybe you can see the tack over there. I don't know. At least you can see the first two gauges here. The tack is kind of difficult to get to. I mean, you can do it. It's going to take a little bit of work, but you can get to it. Hopefully you can see it in there and all the wiring for it. Yeah, so hopefully that shows you why you're gonna have to do pretty much what I did, which is, you know, take this steering column out. Hold on. Like I was saying, the best way to do it is to take the steering column out. I tried to do it without taking the steering column out, and it was just a fight. So I don't recommend doing that. And as far as getting the seats out of here, I recommend getting the seats out of here. You just won't have any room with the seats in here. You're just gonna have to bite the bullet. If you want to take these gauges out, that is just what you're gonna have to do. And like I said, since I was in here, I put the custom auto sound in here, so I had that done. Yeah, so next is the steering column to go back in, and then put the seats in, and I'm done. So, well, to wrap this video up, I just want to go over that the process for removing the gauges is a little different than it was for the 70 and 70 through 72s. Like I said, the 68s, the bolts are all in the back instead of being on the front of the gauge pack, and that's what makes it a little more of a challenge to get that done. The tack is a completely different story. The reason I mentioned the tack so much was because the tack was completely taken apart, rebuilt, and the, lack of a better word, the motherboard, circuit board in the back of it was completely replaced and bought from a vendor off of eBay, which I found, and I was pretty happy with the board that came back. But when the board came back and I put it in, you have to order them, you know, with the type of engine that you are running, whether you're running points and not running points or whatever. I was running points, and that type of gauge doesn't usually require a power supply to work. It somehow works just off of the pulsing of the spark plugs or the points. But when it came back, or when I bought the board and I put it on there, it would not work. So I ended up sending it back to the guy that I bought the board from. He soldered on a wire on the back of the board that if I would have pre-ordered it like it was an HEI system or whatever, that it would have had a power lead coming to it. So now it has a power lead just for the tach that's on switched power, so when it doesn't receive any power when the engine's off, but when the engine's on, it receives power, and that made my old tach work again with a new board. The old board is toast because the capacitors on it bulged, and another individual that repairs those types of things would not tell me what kind of capacitors they were, because the capacitors, you could no longer read any of the information on the capacitor. So I really had no choice but to start looking for a new board, which is what I did. So that is why I spend a lot of time talking about that tach, because it was a big thing. Also, I rebuilt the point system inside the clocks, and I'll put all that information in another video so that you can see that if that's something that you want to get into. But it was a big ordeal, and it did slow this down and me getting this video done and whatever because of all the work with that. So if you like this type of content, you know, please subscribe and leave me any comments down below, any questions you have, and I'll try to answer them. So that's it, guys. Have a great day.